Hi there, Andrew Caressi's here with Audiobro. What you just saw and heard was the LADD sequencer in action playing various MIDI sequences and updating the editor screen in real time as I play different sequence trigger keys. We are very excited to introduce you to the LADD sequencer, a feature-rich component of LA Drama drums. In this video, we'll explore many of the LADD sequencer's features while playing various musical examples along the way. Then we'll create some sequences from scratch by recording MIDI performances in real time, and also by drawing in notes with a mouse. But first, let's go over some basics. There are 8 MIDI sequences that each have 12 tracks. That's for a total of 96 MIDI tracks. All tracks can be assigned to any key from G#1 through C7. These are where all your samples would be mapped. Each sequence can be assigned to any of 8 sequence trigger keys. These keys are in red, ranging from C1 to G1, and you can also assign multiple sequences to the same trigger key. And finally, all sequences can play all of LADD's different types of samples, whether multi-sampled hits, audio loops, sound effects, pads, or tuned percussion. Now let's get into some of the fun instant gratification type features of the LADD sequencer, and then we'll get into the actual sequencing. Okay, so here we have the patch Tin Pan Alley, and this has a variety of single hits and loops. Here you can see the loops in blue, and over here you can see the single hits alternating yellow and blue. And I'm just going to play the first sequence, sequence 1. Now, let's say, you know what, I like that, but I want to try to shuffle around the sounds. Let's take all the sounds and move them up a whole step or a half step. So here, if you notice along the left-hand side, you see the names of the sounds. I'm going to go into this little drop down here, the tracks menu, and I'm going to say increment assign notes by +1. Now you'll see all of these notes have changed. And if I play the loop, you'll hear it sounds completely different, but with the same rhythm, so to speak. Let's do that again and go a couple notes higher. You'll notice that all of these notes here, the sounds are getting changed, but the rhythms are actually the same. So you're getting different sounds from the same sequences that we've been playing, and you can get a lot of mileage and variety just by doing that. Now you can go further, say let's make all of these notes play in the octave 3 range. So now they'll all be assigned to octave 3, B3 to 3C3. Let's see what it sounds like. It's interesting. Now let's go to octave 4. Again, same exact sequence, just different sounds. Let's go to octave 5, which is up here. So you can see just how much variety you can get out of one sequence by just assigning, with a mouse click, different sounds. You can also play a kind of a roulette game where you can say, I want to completely randomly choose different sounds, like this. So now, you just get randomly assigned sounds, which is fun to kind of just experiment. You can even force these single hits notes that are tan to play these blue notes here, these loops, by choosing something like assign 12 random loops to tracks. So here we go. Now it's interesting because it's playing the loops, but in a rhythmic figure. So that just gives you an idea of some of the power you have by using some of these drop downs that will just randomly assign or within a certain range assign different sounds to your sequences. Okay, so let's go into some of the regular sequencing features of LADD. And right now what I'll do is I'm going to close this patch and I'm going to load up the orchestral percussion patch. And let's unmute it right here. Let's open up the sequencer. And let's play an example. Okay, so now that we're going to be covering basic sequencing in LADD, let's go over a couple of these icons here. You'll notice cut, copy, paste, delete, undo, eraser. These are all your standard kind of sequencing tools that we are familiar with in our respective DAWs. And here we have a focus button. And this basically allows you to, for example, when you have the focus off and I play a sequence, I can see different sequences on the fly as I'm playing them. But if I was to have the focus on, then I would only be able to see the sequence I was working on. And when you lock it, that means you can prohibit any kind of changing of the sequence. So if you can't write anything, you can try, but you won't be able to change your sequence. Okay, so let's record a fresh sequence. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to deselect this bottom track so that no tracks are selected. So when I hit the delete button, all the tracks will be erased. I can undo it, but in this case, I want them to be erased. And then what we have is a feature called Clean House. I want to clean up all these tracks so nothing's selected. I can start from scratch, nice and clean. So I'm going to turn on, well, let's look at what we have here. We have a start at 1, a length of 128 steps, and we have a rate of 16th. So this is the rate of this sequence is 16th notes. I'm going to click on the record button, and then I'm just going to play a simple snare pattern. And let's listen. Before we do, let's shorten this to about halfway. So you can see the markers as I'm moving them to, let's say, 64. And let's actually zoom in on this so you can see more of what I'm doing. Okay, so let's press record. You'll hear a few clicks, 4 clicks, and then I'll start playing a simple snare line. Okay. So let's stop that. And I can audition that by pressing C1. And I can look at the velocities of each track that I've recorded. You'll notice that this is a purple track. That's because it's an actual sustained effect, like a roll. So you can see what you're playing. They're different color coded depending on your articulation. And most of the single hits are this tan color. The loops are blue, and some effects are purple, red, and you'll see in the manual it's described in detail. So let's see what we have here. We have these snares. Now what's cool about this is you can take this performance and you can start to ride it with the modulation wheel. So you can get a lot of variety of the dynamics even after you've recorded it. So that's your most basic way of recording is just to use in real-time recording. So now what we'll do is we'll add in some MIDI events with using the mouse. So let's clear what we have right here by deleting this and clearing these guys like this, clean house. So we have no more MIDI events, and let's draw something in. But before we can do that, let's populate one of these or some of these tracks here. You can do that by using the drop down. The drop down will show all the names of the instruments that are inside the patch, or you can actually use these handy sound assign buttons. So I'll click on this button right here and I'll play a note and I get snare 2. So we have snare 2 here, and I'm going to just use my mouse. I'm going to select the track and draw in some notes. Now you can draw them in like this individually, one by one, or you can kind of marquee it with a line and do that. Of course, if I play that, it sounds very predictable. So maybe what you want to do is add some accents. So you can add accents manually by kind of using these helper marker tracks here, these yellow guides to say, oh, I want to accent on those beats. So you have, or you can say, you know what? I'm going to use these guides. I'm going to turn the snap to the guide or snap to quantize. And now I'm going to draw this in like this. And now I have accents on every fourth step. Maybe I want to have accents on every second step. So I'm going to do this. And let's listen to what that sounds like. And then maybe I want to have accents after that on every fourth step. So I have something like this. And then maybe I want to add a little bit of randomization. So I go to randomize and I randomize a little bit. But you know what? I want to compress the MIDI a little bit. So I'm going to go to this compression right here. I'm going to say, okay, let's compress this. So you have the idea. And if you want to assign that to a different snare sound, like without the snare, you just click on this. Now we have a new sound. So there you go. It's very easy to step input or write the MIDI data in with your mouse. I prefer to use the record button. You can do it polyphonically. And then once you've done everything, if you want to organize the tracks from the lowest to the highest, you can go in here and you say clean house, and we'll move it to the bottom. And so if you had multiple tracks, that would start at the lowest and then name them in an ascending order from the bottom up. Anyway, so that's a good introduction to the sequencer. There's a lot more under the hood. There's this menu here. There's the presets, 4 presets, which allows you to save mutes and solo things. You can do all sorts of fun things with that. But we'll go into that in more depth videos coming up. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it valuable. And thanks for listening. Take care.